I'm about to explore one of the greatest Norman strongholds in all of northern England. This castle has a boast that the other castles cannot match. It was tried, and it was unsuccessful on many occasions during the Scots incursions into northern England, that they failed to take this castle. Because there is work being done to the inside of the castle, there's no access to the interior. But nevertheless, this is a pretty spectacular place, no matter what angle you look at it from. So we're going to take a walk around the grounds and see just how imposing this castle was. This, folks, is Prudhoe Castle. Prudhoe is a 12th century Norman stronghold that was in the hands of the Umfraville families. You will recognise that name if you're familiar at all with the Scottish Wars of Independence. And it was in possession of the Percys. Look at these beautiful old solid walls. Look at these earthen ramparts that this castle is built upon. This is the only castle that the Scots were unable to take throughout the centuries. This old tower up here is in a beautiful state. I love the Normans. I absolutely love the buildings that the Normans made to really stamp their authority on the country. They are responsible ever since the times of William the Conqueror for their great castles, their great cathedrals and cities. And one thing is for sure, when they made these great buildings, they were effectively saying to anyone, we are here to stay. I've just spent the last 3 nights in the city of York. From a northern post was the official standpoint for English invasions into Scotland. And York has a great flavour from Viking times, Roman times, all the way forward through the medieval era. But coming on the way back from York and taking some of these back roads into Northumberland, I really wanted to see this castle. King William of Scotland was so frustrated in the 1170s at trying to take this castle that they went up here onto Orchard Hill where they grew their apple trees, and he wrecked the land round about it. He even stripped the bark from the apple trees in his frustration just to absolutely decimate the area. But this is a fantastic place, and you can easily see just with the height it is from the grounds below into Prudhoe town and borough, straight up here. It is an absolute prime example of English strength. The Umfraville family held land in Angus in Scotland. Robert the Bruce had confiscated that land from them in 1328. The Umfravilles appear time and time again in the Scots-Anglo Wars. And they have made many changes to this castle, but it really is a fortified beauty. I just love the Norman castles. They are seats of amazement to me. To run my hand along and walk the foundations of these walls, I think of the Umfravilles who would have been inside in the years where William Wallace had been raiding his way through Hexham and other areas, when Bruce came down in his many raids into Northumberland. But this family, knowing while havoc was being raised throughout the countryside, that they would be safe behind these walls. Bruce would know, even through history alone, and without large pieces of siege equipment, that this castle was virtually impregnable. You can't fail to be amazed just at the strength of this barbican here. And this is so like many of the other Norman strongholds that are scattered over the country that were put up after William the Conqueror came in 1066. It's a pity that we can't get inside here. But nevertheless, the walk around here is worth every step. What a stronghold. Prudhoe Castle. The old steps that would have gone up to the front of the fort. The guards signalling down anyone to raise the portcullis. I'd love to have seen these castles in their heyday. Look at that. Apparently this has been closed for some time now, but when I think of the strength of these castles and how magnificent they are, but also the time and the age, it must have been a time of wonder for the inhabitants of the land after the Norman conquest and the centuries following the Norman conquest, when all these castles were going up, when these large takeovers of land were happening. Even our own King David invited many of the Normans north with promises of land, title and glory, which was won through battles and what have you. The Bruce family, of course, were part of the Normans that came over here, but when you think of the great change in these magnificent structures that go up over the land, it must have been quite a thing for the people at the time, quite something to absorb. And many people would have become Normanized as times go on. Even the language eventually would change from French to Norman English and so forth. The times of the Scottish raids must have been, even going back to the 10s and the 1100s, they must have been terrifying times indeed. I've just come from the small, well, not so much small, but market town of Hexham, which is a beautiful place. Hexham Abbey, bang right in the centre of it. But of course, that was the target of William Wallace and his southern raids. Those must have been terrifying times. They must have been pleading with the king's officials from York to send help to do something about it. But of course, there's not much that they could do. And Wallace and Bruce and friends came down here and raided this land. And to think of a castle like this that stood through all of those times, all of those raids, says a lot for this place. It says a lot for its strength, that it was never ever taken by the Scots. Prudhoe Castle. And although I just spoke to someone who I met in the woods going around there, and he told me that work was supposed to be going on. This is the same with Scottish heritage and Scottish castles, but Work was supposed to be going on in here, but nothing's been done for a long time. But even although you can't gain access to inside the castle, it's more than worth the effort to come and walk around it, just to stand below or right next to the imposing and forbidding walls of Prudhoe Castle. It's a marvellous place. It's well worth the visit, and of course Northumberland itself is one big battlefield. If you have the time to go through the ages, from Roman times through to the Viking eras and right through to the Scottish Wars of Independence. But such a magnificent place, this Prudhoe Castle, and I will be looking to come into Northumberland in the future many more times as I cover the Wallace and Bruce raids during the Scottish Wars of Independence. Thanks for tuning in, folks. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like, comment and share. I would love to hear from you.